the US equity market plus the US Treasury market, if I'm not mistaken, is close to $70 trillion in size. So we keep on talking about TVLs in the billions. I think we need to readjust kind of the numbers that we as an industry are shooting for.
Alrighty, everybody. What is going on? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. In today's video, we're going to be diving into some Canton related material, some breaking fundamentals that have just recently dropped in regards to Canton developments and Solana developments. We're going to start off with a panel that Yuval was on at the next Global Digital Asset Summit, playing some video clips as we allow people to roll in. Shout out to Crypto Erie for this one. Actually, she shared some video clips over on our X profile. But Yuval just goes on to say some very, very, very bullish things for the longevity of this space and just some things to uplift the sentiment, considering that, of course, you know, prices are low, sentiment's low, retail fears at an all-time high. You know, now's the time, in my personal opinion, not financial advice, to really buckle down and focus on digital assets that are, and obviously, of course, blockchain companies that are really partnering and helping transform finance, especially in this most recent market downturn. And Canton Network is definitely one of those layer ones that is just working massively with financial institutions behind the scene. So as we allow people to roll in, let's just play some video clips, bend your ear. Let's talk through some of the things that Yuval here says. Aqua, if you have any feedback that you want to input after some of the clips that I have to play, you're more than welcome to.
Absolutely, bro.
Sweet. All right. So this first video clip, he goes on to talk about how massive the opportunity is here and why people are excited about the digital asset ecosystem.
So why is everybody so excited about crypto? And we hear a lot of times people talking about 24/7. The number is incorrect. Crypto market have went down quite significantly since. I think it's about 2.3 trillion. But when we look at the opportunity on the right, this is why people are interested, right? This is just in capital markets, commodities, fixed income. We almost have $1 quadrillion worth of trading a year. In payments, we have 2 quadrillion. For those that don't know, quadrillion is 1,000 trillions. So the numbers that we're going after are significantly higher than where crypto is today. And therefore, I think the opportunity is still extremely exciting and is worth me investing 12 years of my life so far to go after this journey.
So that was a good little tiny clip just to put some things into perspective. $961 trillion opportunity, which is massive. So to think that we couldn't see multiple layer ones in the future with, a 500 billion to a trillion to in some cases, probably $2, $3, $4 trillion market cap, in the next, I'd say, put a long-term time frame on it, anywhere between 4 to maybe 5 years out, is very realistic in my personal opinion, right? At least from what I'm hearing, especially the likes of Sandy Call, and we'll get into some of those video clips later on. I know that you really enjoy this video clip here, Aqua, from when Sandy Call the other day predicted a $40 trillion market cap this next bull run, which is just massive. So back to this panel. All right. The next little tiny thing that stood out to me that he said here at roughly about an hour and 48 minutes into this conversation, and he goes on to say, Yuval Ruz, that we work or have worked with all of the major brokers in Korea, which I think is just a huge statement. That's massive because we haven't seen announcements that that's happening yet. So maybe there's some announcements that are set to come down the pipeline. And we know that the Asia Pacific region and the Asia regions are super active in the digital asset ecosystem. So it's just great to see Canton, putting in work globally over there, where Yuval here says that they have talked to and been in conversation with all the major brokers in Korea. Take a second here and listen to what he says.
To onboard the top 1,000 market cap companies in the United States. And they selected Canton as the first network to do that. So in October, any market participant would be able to move a US equity and a US Treasury in real time 24/7. I can tell you that most Korean brokers are in the process of connecting to the DTCC project. I'm pretty sure we were working with every one of the major Korean brokers.
Yeah, you raised your eyebrows there. You heard that, right? We are working with almost every one of the major Korean brokers.
And he referred to the DTCC project. So It sounds like the DTCC has put something together behind the scenes. Canton Network being chosen as one of them, and the other ones that what's her name had mentioned as well, because they had mentioned what Stellar now and Solana, I believe, as well.
No, they haven't. They haven't announced Solana. We're actually going to get into that here in a second. But they've announced Stellar, Solana, and Besu. Stellar goes
Oh, okay.
live. Stellar goes live Q1 2027. Canton goes live in October this year.
Damn, that's so dope.
Um, so the next thing that he talks about here is just rethinking how we approach the possible opportunity here in terms of market size, right? So this just stood out to me because it just puts things in a perspective compared to where we're at right now. Sitting at, $2 trillion market cap, even if we were to go down $2 trillion, I would not want to be a participant in the future. Saying that I had the opportunity to buy crypto at $2 trillion market when it's sitting at $10 trillion plus, and say that I fumbled the ball, right? So listen to what he says here.
Thing is that you're going to be able to hold your Tesla stock in your wallet, and you're going to have things like Aave or Morpho, or the equivalent of those things, where you would actually be able to pledge your Tesla stock directly to a person that would want to borrow it, where you would get directly the yield of lending those stocks. And again, like I said, this is not necessarily that it's going to be offered to you through service provider, but you as the customer would be the main beneficiary of that technology. So we're seeing today on the DTCC project already 50 software vendors that are building new applications on top of the DTCC offering, all the way from securities lending, for repoing securities, for creating. NASDAQ is building a new exchange for tokenized equities. We mentioned New York Stock Exchange. So we're seeing 50 different vendors that are going to build new applications on top of Canton when DTCC goes into production in October. And I'm extremely excited. Again, the US equity market plus the US Treasury market, if I'm not mistaken, is close to $70 trillion in size. So we keep on talking about TVLs in the billions. I think we need to readjust kind of the numbers that we as an industry are shooting for.
Bro,
Yeah.
he just said that they're basically building DeFi projects, bro. He didn't mention DeFi, but what he had said those projects consisted of is pretty much DeFi in a nutshell.
He said, he confirmed word for word that there are up to 50 vendors right now that are ready to go live and are building projects for the go live launch in October of this year.
Damn. And he's saying we need to change the topic from billions to trillions. I believe this man wholeheartedly.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I really truly think that when things hit the fan, like, people don't really understand how big traditional finance is. And because the market sentiment in crypto right now is so tainted, it's very hard to look past the current environment. But like, just look at what's happened with the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 over just the past 6 months alone. It's almost like every single month, bro, $1 trillion has been added to the market cap in S&P 500, literally month after month after month. So imagine when profit taking happens from equity markets, market sentiment flips back risk on, where we have either easing from central banks or de-escalation in the Middle East tensions that have been causing high inflation pressures and rising oil prices. Well, imagine when we have all those things behind us and we see supportive tailwinds for risk assets, bro, on top of clear regulation and on top of institutional FOMO, and on top of, if we see these institutions, which I think we will see these, use these layer ones for their real utility, bro, it's like almost, it's easy, honest to God. Like, if you just think about it, if you have the patience and the capital to risk right now, this is the easiest generational play in our lifetime.
Yeah. You just have to have some patience. That's it.
Yeah. Literally just learn how to make income while you wait for this, so that way you're not dependent on your long-term investments. Buy when prices are low and everybody's fearful. And hopefully you're well aware enough of how to earn yield in DeFi, so that way while your dollar cost averaging into these layer ones, you can earn yield on top of your holdings to hedge against the volatile downside that we're currently experiencing. And then you just compound the yield and build a bigger bag, so that when we come out of this cycle, bro, all the people that have been earning, 4 to 5% or 6% or whatever on Canton, the people that have been earning on Solana, people that have been earning on XPR and Metal, and have just been stacking and compounding every day, are going to come out so much more well prepared when we finally fall out of this winter.
And bro, Do you think, because it sounds like, just listening right now to him, it sounds like we could potentially see $1 quadrillion in crypto in our lifetime. I don't know when that day comes, but it sounds like we could be alive when maybe we're 80, 90 years old. I don't know how old we'll be, but $1 quadrillion, 1,000 trillion, and him saying how they're going after that, and this is not peanuts, billions, and it's trillions, and he's
I'd
given
like
up,
to think so.
sacrificed 12 years of his life, like
I'd like to hope that that would happen, but bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be so ecstatic if we just reach like 20 trillion. You know what I
I
mean?
know.
Like, at 20 trillion, bro, a lot of people that invested in the right projects as a retail investor are gonna be so well off. You're gonna see four figures turn to multiple five and six. You're going to see five figures turn to multiple six and seven. If you've got 6 or 7 figures invested into crypto, there's a high probability with the right projects and layer ones 10 years down the road that couple of 6 to 7 figures that you have invested right now is going to be worth billions in some cases. I mean, this is literally the biggest generational opportunity. And if you fumble this ball right now, honestly, looking back 5, 10 years from now, man, I don't even know what I would do if I had to say I freaking didn't buy crypto at sub $2 trillion.
You better have a damn good excuse. Shit.
Moving on here, this was another good post this week. So many things happening in the Canton network ecosystem. I've been paying attention to this very closely. This lady, Aurelia Dilemas, who used to work at Ripple, I've highlighted this before when this took place. This caught my attention. And because obviously, of course, XRP is my biggest bag and was my first crypto investment, still is to this day, bought most of my XRP sub 27 cents, most of it around 11 cents. I used to follow a lot of people from Ripple, and on my LinkedIn profile, I noticed, back, I think it was last year, she stopped working for Ripple as the Ripple X Partner Success VP, and she went to go work at Digital Asset, right? The creators of Canton Network. And she was recently involved in this post here with Zodiac Custody, talking about why capital mobility starts with custody. And so here's the post right here. And just a couple of highlights. I'll read thoroughly through this. I won't bore you guys to death and read the entirety of this thing. But starting off, it says settlement cycles measured in days, market hours that close while global business continues. For a bank, every hour that collateral sits in one system when it is needed and another represents a real economic loss. Enabling 24/7 capital mobility requires assets, cash, and market infrastructure to operate seamlessly. No single institution can solve this alone. It requires a network. And Canton Network, originally created by Digital Asset, is a public blockchain purpose-built for institutional finance. It enables financial institutions to move assets, cash, and collateral in real time 24/7. Canton fundamentally enables real-world assets to be tokenized in a way that is fit for institutional markets. Tokenized securities such as U.S. Treasuries, equities, or structured products can exchange atomically with tokenized deposits and stablecoins. And this is not theoretical. That's what I like about it. It says here, this is not theoretical. Leading institutions are already active on Canton. So I like that on a custodial platform like Zodiac Custody that's backed by some of the largest institutions, it confirms that Canton Network and it being used by institutions is not theory. Like a lot of people, I feel like in crypto, have gravitated towards these theories that certain layer ones are being adopted by financial institutions. Well, with Canton, you don't have to theorize. You don't have to speculate. It actually is. And there's 110% confirmation, not speculative theories floating around, that it is being used, which I like. DTCC is bringing tokenized U.S. Treasuries to the Canton network. Goldman Sachs, HSBC, BNP Paribas, and Societe Generale operate Canton native tokenization platforms used to issue bonds and structured products globally. JP Morgan, Lloyds, LSEG, and HSBC are bringing tokenized deposits to Canton. Intraday repo and securities financing, where over 50 market participants have already participated in on-chain flows on Canton in the past year. Balance sheets can be optimized in real time rather than reconciled after the fact. And then what I really like about this is because, of course, Aurelia was involved in this. It says right here, Aurelia Dilemas. Look at what she says here. And remember, she used to work at Ripple. So I find this very interesting that she says things like this, considering that she came from Ripple. Institutional capital continues to be constrained by legacy settlement windows and siloed systems. Canton and Zodia custody solutions ecosystem give financial institutions the ability to securely hold and move assets, cash, and collateral in real time. Then down here, the way that it finishes this up, it says, over the next few years, the expectation is that networks like Canton will become the connective tissue of institutional finance, linking the core building blocks of the system, assets, cash, and market infrastructure. The foundations are already in place. The focus is now on operationalizing and scaling them. And then down here it says finance finally now has the flowing that it should, which is just crazy to me that this is from, Zodia custody and collaboration with someone who used to work at Ripple, but now works for Digital Asset. And these things are being said.
Yeah, this is massive, bro.
The breaking announcement today, just a couple of minutes ago, MUFG plans a proof of concept using tokenized JGBs for intraday repo. And there's so much speculation around Japanese banks using the XRPL for the settlement of JGBs. But in reality, we haven't really seen anything officially announced on that front yet. But they have announced that they're using Canton for this, which I think is insane. So again, back to that theoretical nonsense that exists out there on the internet, we have to really start shifting our focus from facts and fiction. And the facts are that as of today, August 13, 2026, MUFG, it says right here, MUFG Bank, together with 4 other companies, announced that together with Digital Asset Holdings, they are launching a collaboration on a proof of concept for bringing on-chain Japanese government bonds, JGB repo transactions using Canton Network, a blockchain purpose-built for institutional finance. Then it gives a full breakdown of the objective of this proof of concept. And down here it says, MUFG is launching the collaboration described below on a proof of concept for bringing JGB repo transactions on-chain toward the proof of concept and its subsequent implementation in society. We intend to engage in appropriate, in-depth communication with the relevant authorities and to work together not only within the MUFG, but with a wide range of market participants, including financial institutions in Japan and overseas. We also aim to further develop the projects in close collaboration with Morgan Stanley, our global strategic alliance partner. So this was just a really cool announcement to see in regards to Canton, just more confirmation that it is literally being embedded into traditional finance and will be a portion, because again, it's not going to be one blockchain to rule them all, but will be one of the layer 1 networks that is helping migrate TradFi and DeFi together. So this was cool to see.